Hey everyone. Sorry for a bit of the late post. I want to be able to get this out for this evening. I just want to say thank you all for having last week taking a bit of a change in the order of how you do things and going off book a little bit and just affirming through prayer, or maybe not, just through a sharing of affirmation with your group members. I hope that was a very rich time as you were able to share that together. As we finish off steps 1 to 3, as we kind of recapped last week and enter into step 4, I just want to take a moment to remind you guys, the participants don't know this yet. In fact, they don't really mention it until session 13 in book number 2. But if you want to turn there or just want to look here on page 46 of book 2, this is that graph I was talking about and alluding to. As your participants are introduced to this concept coming up this week of mirror inventories, they are heading down into or going to be in that valley portion. And so be aware of that. As you go through this, the last couple of weeks was a bit of this high, this beautiful part where we came to know that we were made and created with a purpose, that we are loved, and that we get to surrender our pain, our will, our lives over to Jesus Christ. And then last week, just having those affirming words spoken upon us and prayed over us. And now, as we reach that peak, taking a bit of that deep dive. And again, it's not saying it as a discouragement, but knowing that we are praying for each other, with each other, and on each other's behalves as we move forward, because this is going to be a battlefield for the next 5 weeks and really actually through Christmas as well. There's a bit of a lull there. So yeah, usually coming to the housekeeping and administration part of it, just remember that there are going to be inventories. This word is going to keep coming up. Mirror inventories, mirror inventories, shield inventories, closet inventories. When the instructions come in order to tell them about inventories, there will be an inventory frequently asked questions page. Often it's about how many do I have to do, how am I supposed to get that many? There's a link there for you guys, but generally there's 5 strength inventories, 12 to 15 entries for mirror. That's not 12 to 15 people. That'll probably encompass maybe 3 to 4 people, depending on the depth of each person's interactions. And then similar to the shields, 12 to 15 entries. The other important part of this next 5 weeks is going to be the sponsor process. We sent out that sponsor process document for you and the participants as well. If your participants don't have that yet, just please forward that to them so they know the timeline, what each meeting is about, what they need to prepare, and all of that. If they're having trouble finding a sponsor right now, probe them a bit. And I know this might not be easy, but the reason we do that is to just push them and lean them into this program a little bit more. We're not trying to be harsh. We're not trying to be, making them feel uncomfortable, but really it is their responsibility. As you go along, some questions you might be able to or want to ask them if they're not asking any sponsors or if they're just kind of doing a surfacey job. You could say, what are you afraid of? What are you worried about if you ask someone? What would stop you from connecting with someone from the past if you think it's a good fit? Getting them to think a little bit outside of that box is to sort of ask them, what character traits would you want in a good sponsor? As they list that out, probing them a bit more and saying, is there somebody you think in your life would fit that? If you really are, if they really are struggling, again, don't make them feel bad. It's not about shame or guilt. You can let us know and we'll try and connect them with one of our sponsor pool people. The sponsor process, again, they'll come to you with who their sponsor is. Then you will fill out the form. The form link is on this document. We'll email it to you as well and through WhatsApp. But you're in charge so that you're kind of that middle person so that you know and can keep them accountable to when they should be kind of finding their sponsor. Realistically, it should be by about November 16th to 19th. That's a couple weekends from now. Testimonies this week, it'll be sharing about week 8. What was that experience like as you celebrated your strength? Rachel's group is up, set up and teared up, same as, again, Rachel's group. For the mirror inventories, this is where they look at the obvious hurts, the hurts that they've experienced. There's going to be a couple of pauses in the class. You'll be prompted accordingly. And there will be time in class to complete one full mirror inventory. I'd recommend you do one before the evening or dig up something that has happened recently for you so that you can be primed and ready to take on that inventory process for yourself as well. Let your participants know in advance to maybe read on page 97, looking over the actual whole 4 or 5 columns that are there. Last week, some people thought that on one page was one section, and on the other page, that was part 2 or something like that, as opposed to reading across the whole page. Just have them read that, be a bit primed so they can come to you with questions if they have any. As they are instructed for the coming weeks, they're going to be working through their inventories. And remember, in the back of their mind, they should always be asking themselves that interpretation column, number 4. It's a very important column because that really starts to reveal some of those lies, false beliefs, false guilt, inner vows that have been rooted deep within and can actually impact how we behave today. For you and your participants, if you can get to that deeper level and look at, what was my interpretation at that time as that 8-year-old, 12-year-old, whatever it was, what was my interpretation that I let creep in that actually impacts my life to this day? As you look at that, that's an opportunity for God to speak truth into those portions. Those are the lies, those pieces that drive us to the things in our insanity cycle. So you see how these pieces and tools are coming together. For yourself, if this is your second time through and you have a partner or a spouse, Pastor Ken recommends that you go through and fully, deeply apply mirrors and shields and all these inventories to your marriage, how you've been hurt, how you've hurt them. And it's not fun. It's not meant to bring up as a blame game, but as you know how Freedom Session works, it actually is something that can heal and bring your marriage to the next level as well. If you're not, finding another relationship or even current things that are happening in your life and running them through these mirror and shields is just a beautiful, awesome way to approach it. For those who are doing this for the 3rd time or above, you know full well that there are parts of our life that will continue to be broken. As we grow and learn, we're never going to be perfect. And so these tools hopefully have become just a regular routine in your life whenever you hurt or are hurt by somebody. For the small group time, behind the mask, choose one of them. You might choose to skip it altogether. The session might run a little bit long. Again, the behind the mask is sometimes just trying to get a little bit below the surface so people are ready to answer, but it sounds like your guys' groups are all ready to dive in. So if you want to skip that whole section, that's okay. For the session reflections, 4 and 5 can kind of be combined together. Just looking at the surprises on the list of people that hurt you and which one is the hardest one to think about. Who hurt you and which one was the hardest? Encourage them actually to start there. Oftentimes it's a parent, a mom, a dad, a close sibling, and get them to start there. Otherwise it might get avoided and they may finish their 12 or 15 entries and never actually get to the most important ones in their lives. Questions 6 and 7, that can also be combined. It flows well together. It's about how their mirror inventory, what the experience was like, completing that mirror inventory in class. If they don't want to, they don't need to share the whole inventory. But again, seems like a lot of groups are just going right in deep, no secrets. So if they do want to, just keep a check on time. You might have to drop a couple questions later. For homework review, looking at the strengths, hopefully it was a positive experience for people. Just leave space and room for those people who it was maybe a very challenging time or space as they look at who doesn't celebrate them. And again, re-encourage them, reaffirm them in that. Question 9, I would say you could skip that. And question 10 is really about committing 2-hour slots to get those entries done. It's about pouring into those triads and setting up that proper setting to get their homework done. Okay, so the next really 8 weeks, their homework is inventories and sponsor meetings. We have all the links there. If you have any questions, please let us know. Okay, take care, and we will see you very soon.